Welcome to my garden here in Denmark. It's the 26th of August and this garden is located in a USDA Zone 7 equivalent here in Europe. And it is still looking really good here. It has been a little bit dry lately, so I've had to water. Especially these black-eyed Susans can look tired quite early when it gets a little bit dry. So they have needed some water, and I have watered here. But just look at this border right now. I think it looks really great. The big clump of black-eyed Susans in there I've put in, and they have then seeded through the border. And it has given a really natural look here in autumn this year. Just a really great look with those black-eyed Susans in there. Also looking great in here, Rosa Roaldal, that is a David Austin rose. There's actually 3 in there, planted close together, and I do that because I want them to have some presence here in the border. When you plant them roses in with other plants, some of them risk being overwhelmed a little bit. So to give them a little bit more presence, I always plant in 3s here in the border when I just put them in amongst all of the perennials. Also around the rose I've put in some geraniums, and they are there to hide the feet of the rose. I don't want to see bare soil around this rose, and I don't want to see the bare stems of the rose. Sometimes roses quite often tend to have bare stems closer to the ground, and I don't want to be able to see those. Another thing that I have completed since the last video, it's been quite a long time since I made a video, but I trimmed back my Walker Slow and they have responded. It's a Nepeta Walker Slow, and they have responded by flowering again and by looking fresh again, because they were starting to look a little bit tired. So I trimmed them back to, well, around 15 centimeters or so, so somewhat above the ground, and they have responded by shooting again and flowering again. These are sterile Nepetas, so they won't seed everywhere. Also looking great at this time of year. What are they called? Something bonariensis. I can't remember. I will put the name in. What I like about those is, again, those flowers that just sort of hang in the air, this see-through look. I really like that. I have quite a few of these this year. They're all seedlings this year, I think. I don't believe any of my original plants made it through winter, so luckily they seed. Every now and then they overwinter, and sometimes they don't. It depends a lot on the winter here. Sometimes we have really mild winters, but every now and then we get a bit harsher one. Don't think it was that harsh, but it was on the wet side. Also, I need to take some corrective measures in here. Beautiful phlox, but also a beautiful phlox right behind it in almost the same color. A little bit more white bluish in there. This one a little bit more purple white-ish, but I think they look too similar. So I need to move one of those out, and I will do so, well, in a month or so or next spring. I'm not in a hurry, and I'm definitely not in a hurry while it is so dry as it is right now. Even though I watered, it's still rather dry here. Another thing in here is that I might move one of my geranium roseannes out of this border right here, and that is because they are starting to pressure these daylilies a little bit. So I think I'll move one of them out and see what I can come up with to put in there that won't pressure these daylilies as much. But the daylilies back there are actually really good daylilies. And really, they can really be beautiful and can reflower even. They are rebloomers. And I would like those to have a little bit more room. Another plant that's looking great, Helenium, Moorheim Beauty. It has unfortunately flopped a little bit. Yeah, you can see where the wind is coming from basically. It's blowing towards this apple tree. It's still looking great though. And they haven't flopped as much as last year. I did Chelsea chop them in June. That is basically, I trimmed 1/3 off or thereabout. And they reshooted quite nicely. But I had hoped that they wouldn't flop due to that treatment. I think next year I will Chelsea chop them and I will stake them as well. I have plenty of stakes left over, and basically what I use are rusted iron ring stakes. Yeah, you can see them in here if you look closely, right? Right there. And basically as soon as you do like that, they are a lot harder to see. So those I use as stakes here. And yeah, I guess there are like 5 or 6 in there and you just can't really see them. So I will add a bunch of those in that Helenium next year. And I'll do so, well, a little bit before it actually needs it. It's a lot easier to stake before plants need the staking. So just do it like, well, a week before they really need it, right? All in all, I still think that the garden looks really great. I moved a little bit closer to the house. And overall, I think it really looks nice. But yeah, and even here in the evening, I still think that the garden is looking great. The apple tree here is a discovery apple tree. And what I did in earlier this year is that I removed some of the apples. It's a rather new tree in this garden, or rather I moved it about a year ago. And I removed some of the apples, but still they are looking really great. Let's just see if we can pick one. And yeah, that is rather great apple, right? Yeah, we'll put that down there so that I can eat that later. Yeah, right here I am removing a part of my border here in the middle. Between these benches I will remove that part of the border. So I'm not removing a lot of the border, but I am removing the middle right here. That is where some of the plants that I told you about that I moved are coming from. And what I want to do there is I want to re-establish some lawn again. So instead of only having the path here, there will be a lawn up here. And it will basically end at this hue. So not a tall lawn. That will of course make it so that that hue is going to be on a corner. And again, people are not going to cut that corner because the hue is there, right? Hopefully, at least, right? And on the other corner over there, that's going to be there when the lawn is re-established, there's an apple tree, another apple. Not that apple has not been a success so far. It's never provided any fruit that I was able to eat, and it's always had issues with fungus. So That is an issue. So let's see if that corner ends up being a corner where people will cut the corner next year, because I am slowly losing my patience with that apple, to be honest. And it doesn't look any better when the other apple is looking so fantastic. So yeah, let's see perhaps one more year, right? That was also what I said last year. Yeah, the border here on the other side, again, it is looking rather great. Yeah, again, there's sort of a bend right there in the corner. And again, I have something in there, and what I've added in is Magnolia. Magnolia Susan. I think that will look great in there. Does not have the same soil requirements as many other Magnolia. Does not require acidic soil. Will be happier in acidic soil, I think, but I have seen it in non-acidic soil, and it can look really, really great in non-acidic soil as well. So Magnolia Susan, not a bad plant. Again, black-eyed Susans. Here they've not seeded as much. I wonder if my plants might be fitted a little bit closer together in this border, and that they just don't germinate here. Or other factors, who knows. In there, a couple of Hydrangea Paniculatas. Looking really great now. I did water them, they were looking a little bit tired, so I did add some water in there. I think in a couple of years, I think it will look great. At least that one. I am planning on moving the other one. I think they are too similar. So yeah, I am editing a little bit every now and then. Paniculatas are not that hard to move normally. Normally they don't have that deep roots, so normally you can actually move them. Even larger plants. I've moved, I have a Pinky Winky as well in another part of the garden, and I moved that one, was that a year ago, and already this year it's looking great. So yeah, you can move them. A willow leaf pear, also known as olive of the north. Yeah, real olives will freeze away here. They won't survive winter. You would have to move those in. But this is a pear, and it has a bit of a almost grayish foliage, and very small little pears that are inedible. But you have it for the looks, and I think that is looking really great. I did trim that quite hard in spring, because it's a weeping pear, and I didn't want it to go as far down as it did, so I trimmed it quite a lot. But yeah, that is what it is. I think it is looking rather great, and I think next year I can remove the stakes as well. Oh yeah, and here a plant that might make some of the US viewers scream a little bit. It's a Lythrum. Lythrum is a native here in Denmark, so I am perfectly calm having one here. Specifically since this is not a wild one. I would treat it as a weed if it was a wild one. Wouldn't go nuts over it because they're native. In the US they are invasive. They have been infecting the waterways and so on in the US in an incredible amount. So just don't plant these if you are in a place where they're invasive. Here in Denmark, and this one is drop more purple, and then I said, I've never seen, I've quite a few of these plants in most parts of the garden. I've never seen a seedling. So I think they're sterile. I think some people believe that they might revert, and I'm not gonna tell you that they won't. They might, who knows. But here they're great. Yeah, all in all, I think this is looking great as well. My, is it called 7 Heavenly Sons tree. And last video I told you guys that I would wait with trimming it. but I have lifted the crown of it basically. And I've done so by removing quite a lot of shoots. And the reason why I changed my mind is that it was starting to bend out of shape due to the weight of the foliage and the amount of foliage. So I went in and I pruned it pretty hard, and I'm hoping that the stems will do a lot better, those that remain. As you can see, it is a shrub that flowers here in autumn, and I believe there should be like 7 small petals on these flowers, and hence it's a 7 heavenly suns tree. I hope it's called like that in the US as well. It's a bit of a translation, but I will put the name in. But with such a fantastic name, who wouldn't just adapt that? Let's hope that it's the same, right? In this corner, I used to have some plants that would always look tired. Whenever it got a little bit dry, they would look really, really tired in there. What I've done is I've removed them and I've replaced them with hostas. And that is because hostas in this corner have looked really great for many years. And the other plants were just looking so tired all the time. So I've added in, you can't really see them in there as well, but I've added in like 7 hostas or so. And in the coming years they will become rather big. I am a bit cheap when I buy my plants because I know that after one season they'll be as tall as if you have bought a big one. So I buy them where they are a little bit cheaper if I can get them there, right? Sometimes their stock is not available and then I buy them elsewhere. Also sometimes I can fall in love with a plant at a plant center as well, and then I'll just have to purchase it, right? Also in there, Rosa Gauca, a rose. It will only flower in spring, but a rose with this foliage, and you have it for the foliage and you have it for the berries as well. It's actually looking, also here in real life, it is actually looking amazing. That is a nice looking rose, will seed, but is great for wildlife as well with those berries, right? You don't deadhead it because it won't flower again, so you get nice berries on it as well. Also down here, yeah, I've not deadheaded that rose enough. That rose could have been really, really stunning right now. It is still looking great. Rosa Silas Mana. It's actually a rather forgiving rose because I should have deadheaded it more this season than I've done. And a viewer actually sent me a video of it where someone else had it and it was filled with flowers. So I am looking very much forward to this rose next year as well. I think it will look great. Again, there are 3 roses in there. They are a bit overgrown by the geraniums here. I will see if that is a problem next year. The thing is that that Rosa Roaldal that we looked at earlier had that exact same issue last year. And this year it has dominated the geraniums. So hopefully this rose will go in and just dominate those geraniums next year. The rose, I think the rose will win this battle. It's not a Roseanne. Roseanne geraniums don't use those for roses. They're too big. This is, I wonder what that is. Could be Sweet Heidi or something like that. I'm not 100% sure what geranium that is. But there are other geraniums to choose from. Roseanne, I really love geranium Roseanne because it flowers so profusely with such a nice color. But it can get a bit too big for roses, if you ask me. Yeah, I've gone a little bit back again just so that we can enjoy this garden a little bit from afar. Sometimes when it's a little bit dry, it's better to just zoom out a little bit, right? But overall, I think it's looking great. There are a couple of plants here and there that have flopped, but overall it is looking really great. You can see here, oh, I can't remember what those are called. I can put in the name. They are looking really great. A great bee plant as well. But they've flopped. They've actually flopped so much that they are beginning to reshoot from the center where they've flopped away from. So they've flopped a bit. But overall, it doesn't really look that bad. It's not, sometimes when a plant flops, it sort of collapses totally on itself. It's not that bad. Also, again, there's a phlox in there. That is looking really great. Also here I haven't planted another phlox that looks just like it next to it, right? Also, if you just zoom up a little bit, you'll notice there's a pea that has gone all the way to the top in there. That is rather impressive. The only thing I have to watch out for a little bit is that pea can actually be a little bit on the heavy side. So I need to watch out that it doesn't make the shrub collapse totally. So I might go in and thin it a little bit. At some point in time, I think I'm gonna provide some support in there as well. There's no support in there, it's totally unsupported. Only the shrubs support that pea in there. But just look at it, I think it's looking really great. The funny thing is that I can see that from my living room. It sort of almost shines out here in the evening with that color that it has. And I can see that all the way from my living room, and that's like 20 meters away or so. So that is actually doing really great, if you ask me. Yeah. Moving onwards. I think it is actually looking rather good here. Even though this Hydrangea Pinaculata Limelight is looking a bit tired. I did water that a little bit too late as well, but they will start to look a little bit tired here at this time of year, and I'm not going to do anything about it. I watered it, and I want to keep those flowers as they are, and I'll just let them be. I'm not going to do anything about it. You could of course trim them off if you wanted to, but I still think they look good. Yeah, coming around the bend. Yeah, it is actually looking rather great here as well. The pump in here, there's a pump in it, in this little water feature, does look great. I believe these are they called wax blooms or wax flowers? I can't remember, but I'll put in the name. You mainly have them for the leaf. At least I mainly have them for the leaf. And they have a really fantastic leaf this year. I believe last year they had some slug issues, but this year they look really great. Also, I have been moving some of the plants from the border that I am removing and turning into grass back into the back of this border. And I've removed some plants in there. There were many similar plants in there, and I've taken some out, and that should fill in next year. I had to trim off the tops, basically, of most of them, just to ensure that they would make it here in the drought. I did forget to clean up my deadheading, but it goes well with a little explanation right here, and that is that if you have Echinacea, do deadhead them. And what I've done, and I did that a couple of days ago, and I totally forgot. I should probably have walked this garden before I did this garden walk, right? But just check it out. Quite a lot of deadheading. I did it a little bit late, otherwise you would just do it as the flowers gently fade away, right? Then you would remove a couple, and then you would remove a couple. I sort of did it all at once. I should have done it with this one as well. But as you can see down here, and that is, they form new flowers, and they actually already form these flowers before you deadhead. But the deadheading will basically preserve energy, because the plant doesn't have to set seed, and also it will trigger additional flowers later on. So do deadhead them. I have watered this Echinacea Magnus right here, and you have to water those if it gets dry. Echinaceas do not like drought. They do not like ever getting dry. So if there's any kind of drought, do water your Echinaceas. And I know that for this Echinacea, and hence I've actually watered it. And I watered it even in the beginning where it was starting to become dry. So that's why it's looking rather great. And of course the deadheading, it cleans it up as well, right? Yeah. Signs of late summer. My Baltic parsleys have gone to seed. I don't remove the seeds. I've never had issues with them seeding around in here. So I just do nothing and leave the seeds on them. I should add in though that I mulch with what's it called, mushroom compost in spring. And that often prevents germination with quite a lot of plants, right? Because they don't get the light then. And down there, another rose. Oh, and Lambsia, if you wonder. Lambsia. They tend to flop. I remove those that flop. I simply trim them away. When I have the time for it, I simply remove them. So they flop here and horribly, and I remove those where I think they look bad or flop out over my lawn. So there's some maintenance with the Lambsia, but they're great pea plants. Check out Rosa, Lady of Shalott. Wow. Again, there are 3 roses there. Again, I could have done a little bit of extra deadheading, and I could have deadheaded them in time as well. As you can see up here, for example, I did the lazy deadheading. You know, I removed the seeds, the seed heads. But what I need to do here, and I should really do that very soon, because it is starting. You can see the effect when you remove seeds, right? It's reshooting, and it's basically reshooting everywhere. And what I should do is trim it all the way back here. It should be cut all the way, almost half of that stem should be removed. And then new stems will appear, and they will flower. What did I call it? Hydrangea Piniculata Pinky Winky. Looking really great, actually. Pinky Winky, bit of a funny name. Looking really great, and a plant that I highly recommend. That is a fantastic plant, if you ask me. And yeah, a couple of plants in there that do look a little tired. I've moved plants around, and I should have watered them a little bit more, especially the last 3 weeks or so. When it gets dry and you have moved plants around, do water them, right? Yeah, in here you can see I'm slowly putting this border together. Ever so slowly planted a rose in there. Rose Kew Gardens. That should fill in rather nicely, and that should be viewable from out here. It's a rose that can take semi-shade. Also, I think it has a great cottage garden look over it, so I think it will do great in there. Also, a Hydrangea Paniculata. I cannot remember the name of that one. Next to my butterfly shrub. This one will seed. Again, they're not invasive here. So, yeah, not a problem here. But do take care. I think you can get sterile ones. So if you live in a place where butterfly bushes are invasive, check if you are allowed to plant a sterile one. Sometimes sterile does not always mean fully sterile, and then I can fully understand why the authorities would not allow it. But check up on it. Here in Denmark we are allowed to plant them, and I'm on clay so it won't spread. Toad lilies that I moved here. Was it in spring? Toad lilies, of course, they're not really lilies. They're not true lilies, I believe that's how you say it. But do they look, how they look great, right? That is a plant that deserves to be close to the border's edge. And that is what it is right here. At some point in time, something is going to happen here. That grass is going to get removed and replaced by some paving right here. The grass path out there is going to stay. So only in here next to the house I'll put in some paving, I think. Or rather, I'll pay and have someone put in some paving. Yeah, we've actually made it to the very end of this garden tour. Couple of things that we did not cover. Couple of too many things that we did. So it's time to say goodbye. Yeah, thank you for watching. Bye bye.